Tipp today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tipp Today, 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number, won't cost you if you'd like to make a call to us. And Leanne is producing today. Coming up on the show this morning, the Irish Road Haulage Association concerned about the levels of inexperienced drivers on our roads. We'll talk about that in just a few moments' time. A farmer says animal rights activists are selective. Is biodiversity an excuse for inaction? We'll hear from the mother of a teenager in desperate pain, fundraising to get her daughter the surgery that she needs. Karen Prendergast has our interior design slot. Our agony aunt Phil is with us, and Clonmel-based Superintendent Niall O'Connell will join us in studio. So all of that and much, much more on the way. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday@tippfm.com. Let's have a look at the front pages of some of your newspapers. The Irish Daily Mail, the lead story there, just making reference to what we'll be talking about in a few moments' time. The number of unqualified drivers on Irish roads is causing concerns, with a jump of over 12,250 in those on learner permits in the past 6 months. The Irish Times, lead story on the Times today. The Kremlin has rejected European counter-proposals to a controversial US peace plan for Ukraine that heavily favoured Russia, even as Kiev and Washington praised highly productive talks on the issue ahead of a Thursday deadline for agreement set by the American President Donald Trump. And of course, much coverage right across the newspapers about the carnage on our roads over the last while. And we're hearing on the Times today that 2 men were killed and several people were hospitalised in a 3-vehicle crash involving a bus, a truck and a car in County Meath. And also that story that's on our news bulletins and across the papers too. People seeking international protection face paying up to 40% of their weekly incomes to fund the cost of state accommodation under proposals to be considered by the government tomorrow. The Irish Independent and their story, and again Pat had this in our news bulletin, automatic broadband, mobile or TV price increases may become a thing of the past as the government gets ready to introduce a law that would allow people to cancel their contracts if the prices go up. And finally, let's have a look at the Examiner. And good news for Cork City, because close to 50 extra Gardaí have been assigned to Cork City as a new permanent high-visibility policing plan gets underway, targeting antisocial behaviour, drug dealing, shoplifting and public order. All problems that we have here in Tipperary, but without that 50 extra Gardaí, or in fact very few extra Gardaí. And again, it's something we'll discuss later on the programme. And also on the Examiner today, disability payment applications are being rejected at a savage scale, with at least a quarter of rejected cases subsequently granted on appeal in the last 13 years. And that's according to N2's Pater Tobin. That's a look at what's making headlines today. Do you want to make comments on any of that? And if so, once again, you can text WhatsApp 083 311 3311. Now, new figures released from the Irish Road Safety Authority, the RSA, revealing that there are 394,128 learner permit holders now on our roads in Ireland at the end of September of this year. 13,010 of them are in Tipperary. That's an increase of 12,257 learner drivers nationally on our roads since March of this year. That's just 6 months ago. Joining me now is Irish Road Haulage Association President Ger Hyland. Good morning to you, Ger.
Morning, Fran. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome indeed. You have said, Ger, that the levels of inexperienced drivers on our roads beggars belief at a time when millions of taxpayers' euro are being pumped into the RSA. What are your members seeing out there on the roads, Ger?
Well, there is 1 in every 10 drivers that you meet on the road on some sort of a learner permit. That's 10% of the drivers on Irish roads at the present time are on learner permits of some sort. At this stage, the RSA were called in by Minister Kenny last March after we rose how long it was taking young people to get driving tests in this country. And they were hauled in by the minister, and they were given a couple of months to get their house in order. They came back and they said they were bringing on additional testers. They were going to work weekends. They were going to work bank holidays and Sundays. We haven't seen any of that. And we're now 12,257 extra learner drivers on the road since last March. So, in other words, it's disimproving sooner than improving.
And when
we called on the government before that we have no faith in the RSA, and that still stands today.
Which is a very big statement indeed. When Eamon Ryan was Transport Minister last year, he confirmed that major changes on the way for the RSA, which would be likely to see some sort of a separation, I suppose, Ger, of their responsibilities. We haven't seen that yet.
Indeed, we haven't, but here's another one. Last March, we were told that they were going to do something. The RSA are blaming no-shows for a lot of the testing that's not being done. We're now 6 months further on. We're in November, and we're told by November 26th they will have some sort of a mechanism in place to deal with no-shows. Now, that's a year and 3 quarters to get something sorted out for that. That is just shown to me that the people who's running that are not fit for purpose.
And you go along with that notion that the licensing and vehicle testing roles should be removed from the RSA and let them completely dedicate their time to road safety and advocacy. Do you think that should happen, Ger?
I do, yes. I genuinely do, because they're showing that they're not capable of running the testing. It's they come up with this nonsense of people not showing. It's just a distraction. They put no systems in place to reduce the no-show. The real issue is just years of mismanagement.
And what is the result of this in terms of what your members are seeing on the road with so many inexperienced drivers out there? What are they seeing on a day-to-day basis?
Well, look, the guards have taken over 2,000 learner drivers off the road because they were driving without a qualified driver beside them. And to be quite honest with you, I have the world's sympathy for them learner drivers. They're young people in the majority of cases trying to get to work and trying to get to college. And they're living in rural Ireland. They don't have buses. They don't have trains. They have no way of getting to work. They're doing the best they can. They've all got weekend jobs, or they've all got jobs of some sort. They're paying extortionate insurance on a learner permit. And people are not, their fathers and mothers can't be sitting in the car beside them. The temptation is there for them people to drive on a learner permit. I don't condone anybody breaking the law, but I can see where they're coming from. Sitting 6, 8, 10 months waiting for a driving test and no way of getting to work. So.
And in the case of college, of course, it's so hard to find accommodation as well that, as you say, people are backed into a corner, I suppose.
If they can find accommodation for college, they can't pay for it.
Yeah.
You know, and as I said to you, I don't condone people breaking the law, but I can see exactly where they're coming from.
We've heard about the carnage on our roads over the last week or so, over the last couple of weeks, I suppose, Ger. You know, and you know, a lot of those cases are being investigated, one thing and another. But is inexperience a big issue on our roads in terms of, you know, road deaths and the like? Do you think?
Well, yeah, I presume inexperience has some role to play, but also we have young people driving very high-powered cars now that we didn't have years ago. And that's, you know, most of our major accidents are on rural roads late at night.
Yeah.
You very rarely see a major accident in a town zone or a village zone, where you'll see gats of vans, and where really and truly it's out the country where these accidents are.
And of course, it's very hard
So the standard of driving in Ireland, in comparison to, we just talk about our neighbours, the UK, standard of driving in Ireland in comparison to the UK is outrageous. People don't know how to use a roundabout. They don't know how to approach a roundabout, even which lane they should be in a lot of cases. We have a lot of people who have passed their test in the last number of years. They never drove on a motorway until they got their full licence. They were never showed how to enter a motorway. They were never showed how to exit a motorway. If you were coming up a motorway in the UK and you're on the inside lane, on the left lane, you'll see the traffic when they come where there's a slip road and traffic joining the motorway. You'll see the traffic moving out to the middle lane. In Ireland, they try and hem you in and won't let you out.
It's interesting that you say that, because I travel quite a bit over and drive quite a bit over in the UK, and I was making that point on the programme earlier on this year that the courtesy I saw on the motorways over there, because some of the places I was going to I wasn't familiar with, so I met a couple of boo-boos, but they were very courteous to me, allowed me to move into a lane. It's quite different to here. I think you're dead right.
It's completely different to here, but a lot of that stems as well from the driving test not being fit for purpose, in the sense that there's nobody taught how to drive on a motorway here. You do your driving test, and you're in a local, maybe a small town. There's a town not too far from where I live. There's one set of traffic lights in it, and you never see a motorway until you pass your driving test. You can do a driving test in that town, and the next thing you're allowed out on the motorway at 120 kilometres an hour.
But this discussion has been going on for years, and I've discussed it with testers, and I've discussed it with people who are training people how to drive, and still we don't seem to address it in any way.
No, but unless associations like ourselves, like we're suffering as well, we can't get young drivers tested to drive commercial vehicles. We cannot get them tested in a timely manner. And unless associations like ourselves or industry like ourselves start calling out the RSA and start putting pressure on government for a reform of some sort, I don't know what that reform will look like, but certainly what we have here today is not fit for purpose.
And
there were 30 different organisations last March called for a reform of the RSA, and we still haven't got it. We still haven't heard, is it going to happen, when it's going to happen, or what it might look like. But nearly a 13,000 increase in learner permits since last March. Sure, it has to be ringing alarm bells somewhere.
All right, Ger, we'll see what our listeners have to say about that. But good to talk to you today, and safe driving, Ger. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Good morning to you. And that's Ger Hyland there, who is president of the Irish Road Haulage Association. 1800 938 007. The text and WhatsApp is 083 311 3311.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, the debate over whether fox hunting should be banned in Ireland remains a rather contentious issue. You're right. Remember that during the recent presidential election, Heather Humphreys reaffirmed her support for fox hunting. She stated, "I support rural pursuits that have been going on for hundreds of years, and I support them fully." And of course, she got a lot of flack for that. Farmer Maurice Leamy was in touch and joins me now. Good morning to you, Maurice.
Good morning, Fran. How are you?
I'm well and good to talk to you today. You believe that animal rights groups are rather selective in what they consider cruelty. Will you explain that to me, Maurice?
Absolutely, Fran. You know, I was on last September. It's almost it's nearly 8 or 9 weeks now since I was on with you last.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was doing a lot of research in the meantime since. I'm putting a lot of pressure on politicians in relation to halal slaughter. And, of course, there was silence from all of them. Now, in relation to the fox hunting, you'll see all the lefty politicians and they mounting a massive challenge against it. And, you know, when I would send them an email or try and talk to them or contact them in relation to, and, you know, I'd bring them in their Oireachtas number and whatever, in relation to halal slaughter, they just didn't want to know about it.
Right, and I'd love to talk to you about halal in just a few moments' time, but just to stick with the fox hunting for a moment, you said that animal rights groups are selective in what they consider cruelty. Is that what you're talking about there?
That's what I'm talking about, because as I say, look at fox hunting, Fran. Fox hunting has gone on here for lots of years, you know, and the reason it is kind of coming under the spotlight is because of Ruth Coppinger's proposed banning it on the 17th of December. Now, not only does she want to ban in fox hunting, she wants the fox to be made a protected species. Now, as it stands in this country, Fran, 63% of our bird populations are in decline, and 25% of them, I'm talking about ground nesting birds now, 25% of them are threatened with extinction. And the birds I'm talking about are lapwing, curlew, snipe, redshank, meadow pipit, hen harrier, and the grey partridge. Birds like that. You know, in Ireland, we have over 4.5 million hectares of agricultural ground. And you know how many breeding pairs of curlew we have?
I don't, but I know it's very low anyway, Ger. But what, Maurice, what is it though?
We have 140 breeding pairs of curlew.
Oh.
Now, the main reason for that, and the 120 breeding pairs of hen harrier, the main reason for that, Fran, is because of predatory mammals, i.e. the fox and the mink. Now, the one bird that has made a bounce in recent years is actually the corncrake, but that is due to very intensive culling of foxes anywhere near where the corncrake would be nesting.
It's interesting. I didn't realise that foxes were a threat to the bird population.
Oh, massively. So the ground nesting birds, Fran.
I mean, I knew they'd go after hens and chickens and stuff, but I didn't realise No,
because see, the ground nesting birds, Fran, you have the little chicks, you have the eggs, you
Yeah.
have, and sometimes even the birds themselves. They're a serious source of protein, and that's where the fox will hunt, and that's where he's a scavenger, Fran. You know, I love all wildlife, Fran. Foxes included, until they cause me grief. And every year, normally on my farm, I would lose probably 6-7 lambs, and you'll hear these people coming out in favour of banning fox hunting and say, oh, but they'll only take the weak lamb, or they'll only take the lamb that's on the half dead already. When that's not the case at all. You know, a fox is conniving, and, you know, basically if you have a ewe with twin lambs, he'll always just be there when and he'll nearly always know the ewe is going to have twin lambs. So she'll be there and she'll be watching, and she will round the ewe until she has the ewe so confused that she'll just protect one lamb, and then the fox will snipe the other, and that's what happens. And oftentimes you can have a little lamb, he'll be a baller for no other reason, but he'll be just a bit silly in himself and he'll be bawling. Sometimes it's with hunger, the ewe might just have enough milk for him, and that fox, or the fox, will swipe that lamb as well. So look at it.
And every year you would lose lambs to the foxes. Every year.
Oh, I would.
Would
for
you?
Sure.
Yeah. And
sure.
did you tell us as well that you haven't seen so many foxes on the farm in a long time?
And lots of healthy foxes. And it's funny, one year the hunt wanted to come through, and for that reason I had ewes above in whatever field that they wanted to come through, and I said, lads, would you just maybe for this year we won't do it. And I remember 2 months later, I remember having at least 3 lambs taken within a fortnight period. And I was like, Jesus, why didn't I let them come through? Do you know? And then you'll hear the likes of Jennifer Whitmer going and saying, if you want to kind of control fox numbers, shooting is far more a better method of doing
humane, yes.
Hunting.
Yeah.
Well, humane. But I'd actually argue the point, Fran, if you're going shooting in the springtime when the lambs are being taken, you're going to be shooting the vixen. So what's going to be left is 5 or 6 little cub foxes left in a burrow to starve to death. So is that humane? I often wonder about these lefty politicians. Do they actually know what they talk about at all? Whereas the funds, when they come in, Fran, they'll be coming in there in the wintertime when there's no breeding going on, when there'll be no cubs in the den. And basically what they'll do is they'll if a fox is caught, what'll happen will be, it'll probably be the weaker fox or the older fox, or you know what I mean. So probably mean.
It would, but you see, the argument that would be put to you, I guess, is that it's the deliberate pursuit and killing of foxes for sport, Maurice. So
I would rather say, it's a hunt, Fran. It's more control of vermin, Fran, is the way I'd put it.
But it's not a very effective form of control, though, is it?
Well, any control, Fran, as I've just given out to you there in the number of the birds that are under serious decline. Like 25% of them are on threatened with extinction, Fran. Do you know what I mean? And I'd say to any of your listeners, if they all have phones now, and and even if the older people aren't able to use the phones, if they go into the libraries, because libraries offer tremendous service, and they could go into libraries and just look at the books, the wildlife books. There's some fantastic wildlife books inside, and they can look for images and pictures of the lapwing, of the curlew, of the snipe, of the little meadow pipits, most beautiful little birds. These are in serious threatened with extinction, Fran, right? And that, as I say, is down to not solely on the fox, but the fox is the main mammal predator, him and the mink, pine marten as well, obviously. The lad above in the sky too, the big fella, the buzzard. But you need to, everything needs to be kept. When you have something that becomes too common, Fran, right? Something that becomes too common, well, what's rare is always going to suffer. And in this case, it is the ground nesting birds, Fran. Now, Jennifer Whitmer in an interview, and she thought she'd done brilliant against Michael Healy-Rae. She questioned, the effectiveness of the hunt, and she just called it a blood sport. And she says, the reason for the ground nesting birds being declined is habitat loss. Well, no, she's correct in that. But recent studies have shown, Fran, as I said, I just mentioned there about the corncrake, the fox, if he's kept away from him, these birds actually have a chance of, like the corncrake did have a bounce this year in numbers. I think they're over 100 breeding pairs this year. So it's
but that's because of very careful breeding programs, is it not, Maurice?
Very careful breeding programs, but keeping the fox and the predator away. That's the main thing, friend. And like the population, as I say, I've never seen them as numerous as I have in the last year or two. I mean, in Dublin, you see them. They're causing trouble above in Dublin now with people with cars eating the cables under the cars and scratching against the cars and all this kind of caper. Do you know, everything needs to be kept in control, Fran, when you in nature, in the line of predatory animals.
And Maurice, take me on then to your argument against the practice of halal slaughter in the meat factories. And just before you start that, will you tell me, the animal rights groups, do they speak about this?
No, they don't. They're very good at posting stuff on social media, and I'll come back because I'm not registered on Facebook anymore, but I'll be able to answer them or send them a photograph, and I'll send them a photograph of a cow hung from the hind quarter. I think I sent it to you. Forgive me for doing so, but she'll be hung from her hind leg, her throat will be cut, and she'll be dragged along the floor in the abattoir. Taken over 2 minutes to die, Fran. 2 minutes that them creators to die. This is a growing market in Ireland, unfortunately.
Yeah. So you sent us I'm just conscious that listeners, well, for starters, they might be eating their breakfast, but the detail you sent, because it's based on Islamic law, the slaughter involves killing the animal by cut to the throat, and it must be with a sharp blade, obviously, severing the artery there, the jugular vein, the windpipe in a single swipe. And the animal, you're telling us, is conscious at the time, Maurice. That sums it up, does it?
It has to be conscious. Like I say, it is, in Ireland, Fran, over 1 million sheep annually and 100,000 cattle annually are slaughtered like this. I'm not going to mention any factories, but I did send an email to all the politicians around, including our own three TDs, not a squeak from either of them. In fairness to Seamie Morris, the only local politician to voice his
he did indeed. He did that a couple of times on social media, I know.
And to be fair, the only politician to come back to me. Now, I know Ken Flynn, in fairness, brought up in the Dáil, about it, but an MEP, in actual fact, Billy Kelleher, responded to me, the only MEP or politician to respond to me, and he said, Maurice, thanks for sending me on this information. He says, there's no denying the cruelty that is going on in some of these abattoirs, he said, and factories. And it's something that he's going to continue to...
and can I ask you, Maurice, why do you think the local representatives didn't engage with you on this?
Spineless, Fran. Like after our last interview, and I know you said there was a huge response.
Yeah, there was.
To it.
Yeah.
Did any of the politicians, when they were asked, did any of them want to come on?
Well, I can't remember because my head is sort of done in, but I can't remember at the time whether we even gave them the opportunity.
Well,
to be honest.
I'll be honest with you, Fran, right? Because I basically, you know me, I don't give a shite, and I'll say it the way it is. I've contacted the three of them. I emailed Alan Kelly. I rang his office. I talked to his councillor there in Newport and told her the whole situation. Not a squeak from any of them. Now, worse than that, Fran, Brian O'Mara just ignored my email. But worse than that, I was horrified to see back in June 2023, there was a question put to the then Minister Charlie McConalogue by our own local TD, Michael Lowry, asking that the halal practice be protected for the rights of the Muslim community and Jewish community, not only Muslim, no, Jewish community in Ireland. Jesus Christ, I was like, what is this? I didn't
now, do you have documentation on that now, Maurice?
I have. Yeah, right. I can send that to you, but I was just wondering, did Michael go to bed one night, have a dream and wake up as Mohammed Lowry or something?
I know, but I mean, if that is his belief, that's his belief, and he's entitled to it, you know?
Well, Fran, I can tell you one thing. I would say a lot of the people that voted for Michael Lowry, if they know that, they'd be questioning it. This is the most horrific... You talk about fox hunting, Fran. This is the most horrific, abhorrent abuse of animals. These are beautiful farm animals, Fran, that every farmer in this country will be minding from the day they were born until the day they leave the farm. And the reason is that you get by these animals being reared properly with kindness and minding, the meat at the end of the day is going to be perfect. It'll be, and the funny thing is, Fran, I was talking to a lady in the department who actually lives beside an abattoir in Dublin. Sorry, not an abattoir, a butcher, but I think there's an abattoir beside it, where halal meat. And she says the smell of the meat is so strong when you walk past it. She says, not like a normal butcher's. And she says, why is that? And I said, well, the very simple reason is the cortisol. This cortisol is the smell of fear in the animals just prior to that. And that's why you have such a strong smell and a strong taste.
And I know that you're aware that the practice is permitted here because it's compliant with an EU regulation on welfare slaughter if this is carried out under certain religious rites, which it appears to be.
Yes, well, I can tell you, Fran, I won't name the factory, but I can tell you of people that are working in the department that are working in them factories, Fran. And they say if you saw it, you would not be in the better of it. You would not be. What do those creators suffer, Fran? They take literally 2 minutes to die after getting it cut to the throat. And worse than that, they're walking up the aisle, Fran, where all this blood will be coming again them. The people that are doing it, Fran, have to be dressed in rain gear like the firemen
because of the bleeding.
Because of the bleeding, Fran. It's just the most horrific. As I said, Fran, it has been banned in most European countries, Fran, Germany being the latest. There's a reason for it, Fran. The animal rights crowd are great here when it comes to a dog being found in a bush or a few puppies. And listen, as I said, Fran, you're talking to probably one of the biggest animal lovers in the country, right? And like I said before to you, I found a fox in a ditch here one day with the two terriers like guarding it, and put it into a little barn, tried to get him to come around, but I suppose he was dying anyway, you know. That's the other thing, Fran. I did mention to you about the shooting and all the rest of it. You know, not everyone has a great shot, Fran. And if a dog is, or if a fox is shot and he's left half dead, he could take days to a week to die. That's far worse than getting chased through.
Yeah, what do you say, Maurice, to one of our listeners who says Mr. Leamy himself is being selective? The main reason for threats to bird life is loss of habitats and loss for the land reclamation and demand for intensive farming. I say this is a long-time hunter and rural pursuits activist too, not a left-wing ban all hunting type.
100%. The biggest threat to animal habitat loss is overpopulation in this country, Fran, and the infrastructure build that follows thereafter. Between roads, Fran, urban sprawl, one-off housing, all to cater for our growing population. I don't know, did you see a video, I think I sent it to you last night, of a river above in County Meath, Fran, where raw sewage was just being pumped, and the whole of the river destroyed, a beautiful big river. You see it in the Nina River. You see it in the Ballina, down in Ballina, with the raw sewage going straight into the Shannon down there. It's just unbelievable. I agree with that fella. I'm not being selective. See, the one thing, Fran, I work for myself. I don't work for anyone else, and I'm not running for any election. I don't looking for votes. So I have a great freedom that I can speak my mind and not be afraid of repercussions. And he is right. And another big, massive thing, Fran, about farmland is solar panels. They are going to destroy any biodiversity. This is a biodiversity crisis in this country, Fran, a biodiversity crisis. And they're going to destroy any sort, and they're going up all over the place. So I agree with him. He's right in that. And of course, intensive farming, Fran. I'm not afraid to shy back from that, Fran. I came on to you last spring. I went against my own people.
Yeah, I know you did.
The farming background, talking about export of animals out to Algeria. It happened again there last week down in Watford. Heavy in-calf heifers going out. Totally scandalous, Fran. Right. Absolutely scandalous.
Maurice, I must leave it there, but you've certainly ignited another conversation. I'm looking at the screens in front of me here, and they're pretty much lighting up. You look after you, Maurice, and thank you for your time this morning. Thank you. Good morning to you. Bye-bye now. It's Maurice Leamy speaking to us there.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938-007.
Now, Mary is in Tipperary Town. She says, Fran, I agree with that man you just had on about driving. We were coming home after dropping the kids to school in Tipperary Town, and a man drove straight out of a certain supermarket, and only for my husband stopped, he'd have driven into us. He wasn't even looking at us. Enjoying the show. Keep up the good work, says Mary. Hello, Mary, and thank you for that. 100%, Fran, in the UK, they're great at giving way on the roads and letting you in. Here it's a case of FU, I own the road, and that's a listener that describes themselves as an Ardfinnan listener. Driving lessons should be part of the school curriculum. Every kid should have a full licence when they're finished school, says another listener to us. All right, let me bring you some more of what's been coming into us. Your present speaker, Maurice, is talking a lot of common sense where wildlife is concerned. Foxes are not an endangered species, but thriving everywhere. Coppinger and her animal rights friends would be better off trying to save the species in this country that are under threat, of which there are many, says Jim, who lives near Thurles, he tells us as well. Please ask Maurice, the farmer that's speaking, does he think the farming practices of zero grazing, clearance of ditches and ground cover, continuous spraying of weed control and continuous culling of badgers are the cause of our small birds, rabbits and nearly all types of wildlife being endangered? Anyway, what do you make of that? 083 311 3311. Now, yesterday's show featured Councillor Jim Ryan, who discussed the topic of biodiversity and questioned whether it's being used as an excuse to avoid tackling the issues facing our waterways. Well, John Wort, who is chairman and founder of the Durlas Ella Memorial Committee, was listening to the piece and was in touch and joins me now. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning, Fran, and to all your listeners out there.
And lovely to talk to you today. What are your thoughts on that whole business of biodiversity considerations, John?
Well, my thoughts about it are, I was involved with the Tidy Towns from 1982 to 1999, and I worked with some of the best horticulturists people and people involved in the community and nature that you could work with. And when I see today, we have a beautiful green here in front of us, trees and that. 2 of the trees, we pay for them ourselves. And some of them, my own committee presented 2 or 3 of them to them over the years. But
is that the Collins Park area, John?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes, on the way up there to the Central Stadium.
Sure, yeah.
Now, the idea behind the green the first day was for the kids to play in and for the area to be used for people to walk around and use it, we say, for leisure or whatever. But over the last couple of years now, it's been let grow wild. And I mean wild till the dandelions are about a foot high or whatever. And then you're left to the wind when they mature, as you know. They blow in all directions. All our fronts are destroyed with weeds. Our footpaths, our driveways. Now, in an area like this, I have all the time in the world for biodiversity. But biodiversity in our area is crazy because, and I pointed this out to the council on many occasions, behind me you have Dr. Morris Park. It's actually the field that the Tipperary team play on.
Sure.
And behind that you have open country as far as you can go up to the mountains. And you have lots of trees, there's groves there, everything. I have buzzards coming into the garden. I have hawks coming into the garden. We do a bit of biodiversity ourselves. So there's no need for it in a built-up area like that that's so close to the countryside. And that also applies to the river. The river, as a young boy, I fished in it. Jim actually was on the Tidy Towns with me, as was Noel Dwyer in his day, as you well know, Noel from previous programmes.
Yeah.
And we were very conscious about the river, even when we were in the Tidy Towns, because we had at the time, you had different flows into it, which were very concerned. Now you can walk the river shore all the way up to Knox's, and the cows can't get into the river, but the fish can't swim in the river. That's how overgrown it is. Now, that shouldn't be. Now, to me, when I see it here in the green itself, it's a private contractor now that actually cuts our green. Now, at the moment, he'll cut 4 feet in from the verge, the actual footpath. The rest of it now is left wild. Now, you could imagine kids trying to come out and play in that, or you have other people coming in that take advantage when it's high and walk their dogs when there's nobody about, and then you'll walk at it and you'll know all about it. So I think it's very unfair. I think they should think about it. Biodiversity came into the equation, I know, a few years back, and these people coming out of college. But the one thing I think most of these people are lacking, and today, is a little bit of common sense. And to talk to people in the area, what would they like? Not come on and do it and say, well, we're doing it and that's it. You know, as I said, when you look at our area, and I'm sure you're aware of it,
I am indeed,
and you look at the behind us, and look in front of us, it doesn't make sense. And then you're caught, you have the expense of trying to keep the weeds out of your front, and on a day then the wind is blowing, if your windows are open, you'll get the little flowers coming in the window to seed. So that's about it there. And even with the river as self at the moment is crazy. It's like one of these days you'll be able to bring the cattle in and graze inside in it. There's a beautiful fountain inside it that was there from our time in the Tidy Towns. And it was always maintained. Even when we were young boys, there was a raft there. We were fishing. We always maintained it. And we looked if there was anything flowing in the river, we pulled it out of it. But that's not the case today. But
And tell me, John, how does the Tidy Towns adjudicators look at biodiversity? Because sometimes it can look kind of scrappy when, you know, areas like the green, for instance, is allowed to overgrow or whatever. How do they view that now?
Well, there's a different committee there now today, as you know. I'm with the Dorla Salem Memorial.
No. But what I mean is the people who adjudicate the tidy towns. I'm just wondering how they view that.
Well, I've never heard any of them speak out about it.
Yeah.
Because it seems to be shop windows and, would say, different areas, estates. But the estates that they're talking about are not affected by biodiversity.
Okay.
When you go to different parts of the town now, you have a beautiful park up in Lochtagalla, which is fantastic. Now, I was involved in that myself in the early days as a young boy. I was involved in the planting of the first trees up there with Father Meehan. That'll tell you, I'm 77, born at 78, and I have a fair knowledge of the town itself. But not alone that, you go into the graveyards today, even up in where we are in St. Mary's, they're going to do something with that shortly. But when you go up to St. Patrick's and you go in on the left-hand side, the oldest part of it, it's overgrown so badly, it is unreal and it's disrespectful. And now I brought it to the council's attention there, and they said, well, it's up to the people that have buried there, our relations. But the vast majority of those people that are buried on the left-hand side, there's no one there belonging to them today. So the place is run wild. You know, it seems to be, now I can give you another idea, would say Ladies Well one time, you might remember when all the ash tree died.
Yeah, sure.
And at the time, we were very friendly with Mabel Langley, and I was good for her heart, she was very good to us. She used to give us all the saplings out in the woods, and we had our own nursery here in the town, and we planted the trees all over the town. But we used our common sense where we were going to put them. But today, as I said, in a built-up area, it's crazy. It doesn't make sense. Now, the council will say to you, well, we have a biodiversity in front of our offices or around our offices. But that's all right. They go home to their homes at night time. They're not in the town. They're outside the town, most of them. So they don't have to look at it, or they don't have to worry about, we say, the seedlings blowing into them. You know?
Yeah, and so do you believe then, John, am I right in saying you believe that we have enough biodiversity in our countryside the way it is?
Oh, God, yes. But Fran, if I brought you up to my house and brought you up with it to the back window and look out, you'll see the most beautiful countryside that you could imagine. You're looking up onto Drumban across the hills, and you see the beautiful groves that are down there as well. I counted there in the summer 21 buzzards in the sky.
Wow.
They're down in the wood behind us, 21 of them. Now, the adults had the younger ones out training. Now, the other day we came back, there was a hawk on the fence. Now, it was a beautiful sight to see. I actually took a photograph of it. Beautiful sight. But he would come down and did the damage to one of the doves that were there the other day. But that's nature. Yeah. But that'll tell you how near we are to the countryside here. There's no need for that. But the thing about it is...
And the children, I guess, can't play on your green there anymore, can they?
No. They can go out and play in it, but they're about maybe 12, 14 inches of grass to play in. If you want to play a game of hurling or a game of football out there, it's impossible. And even at the moment, the grass is growing again. Now, that will be left growing until the rest of the dandelions come. Now, when the dandelions come, there's millions of them out there. Yeah. Millions of them. All you'll see is a sea of orange or yellow.
So your own lawn then, I guess, is affected by that, is it?
Well, I haven't the lawn in the front now. I have the tarmac macadam, but that's it.
Yeah.
Now, in the back, I have my own patch of biodiversity, as most of my neighbours have here as well, because we were very involved in the area. Now, this area itself, will say, we used to look after all this area over the years, but now it's a very senior area. There's only, there's 34 families here at the moment when we started out. Out of the 34 families now, there's only 6 couples left out of the 34. It's more seniors here than anything else. And they walk around the footpath. And I brought this up before. We had Sharon Sweeney up there from the Star. Yeah. And the grass was left on the footpath. And it was left to go dry into it. And you would break your neck on it. Now, I would go out with the blower every now and again, and I get so much. I used to do all around it and blow it off the grass off the footpath so people wouldn't fall. But I brought that to their attention as well. But they don't seem to listen. They haven't the manpower because...
No, just before I finish with you, because I'm just running out of time, will you compare the river of your boyhood to the river the way it is now?
Oh my God, a disaster because
a disaster, John. Wow.
A disaster. That's all I could describe it. We used to do, as I said, I fished from Knox's out to Holy Cross, we could say, up to the back of the factory.
Yes.
And it was a pleasure to walk that and to fish it. And you knew the time of the year, but at the moment it's so overgrown. But there, when the flood was, to see it and the water on it, it was fantastic to see that flow of water. No weeds. Very few ducks you will see in it, very few swans you will see in it, and I'm sure there's very little fish in it because there mustn't be no oxygen left in the water for the fish.
Right. And as far as you're concerned, and just briefly, because as I say, I'm heading towards news, yes. What would you do about the river with the experience that you have over the years?
Well, I think myself it should be maintained every year. There's a crew, they're talking about the waterways and beautiful north and south, east and all these waterways and walkways and all you have.
Blue ways and green ways.
There's a waterway there at the moment. It's absolutely fantastic. Now as you go down the Little Man, it's lovely. But when you come back into the town and you come up onto Bird Island and go back along the little island there, that's all overgrown. And I remember going back years ago, they used to dredge the centre of the river. It's a long time now since dredging. And if they dredged the centre of the river and all the river and made the banks higher outside, you'd have very little flooding.
Yeah.
And you'd have, if you start a job and you maintain that job, and it becomes, we'll say, every year you go out and you do the same thing, you won't have as much to do and to look perfect.
All right, John. Well, really good to talk to you today and really informative. Thanks for talking to us, John. Thank you. Good morning to you. John Wort speaking to us there from Thurles this morning. 1800 938 007.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24111.
Thanks, Pat, and welcome back to the second hour of Tipp Today. One of our listeners telling me that there's more wildlife killed during the silage cutting season, young pheasants, etc. Fran, I've said it to you before that most of this little country is suitable for nothing other than birds, bees and trees. And this biodiversity within towns and villages is something that is just not required. Mary says, just listening to that gentleman about halal butchering, and he is so correct. I lived in the Middle East and I saw what he is speaking about. It's beyond cruel and it's time to stop it. Mike was on to say, good morning, Fran. John is a mine of information. And it's so hard coming up to news to politely tell a gentleman like him that time is against us. Kind regards, Mike. It certainly is, Mike, and it's a constant issue about radio because you're watching the clock all of the time. And sometimes when a discussion is in full flow and when you have a very interesting guy like John, it's hard to say, well, we have to leave it there for now. But look, we will have John on the future programmes, I would imagine, indeed. Now, Katie Byrne is a 19-year-old from Cork who has been fighting pain for most of her life. She was diagnosed with hip dysplasia at 3 years and 8 months old, and her mum, Antoinette, has been sharing her story online to save her daughter's mobility, independence, and indeed her future. And Antoinette joins me now. Good morning to you, Antoinette.
Good morning, Fran. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome, and really good to talk to you today. And, I found Katie's story is absolutely harrowing. Will you take me back to the beginning, I suppose? When did you discover that Katie had issues, Antoinette?
Katie was born 3 months premature. And subsequent to her premature delivery, she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And at 3 years and 8 months, she was diagnosed with hip dysplasia. So that was kind of the start of our journey and our fight to get Katie services.
And it's been a fight and a journey, a fight all of the time, I suppose, Antoinette.
Yeah. Well, we're 15 years now trying to get Katie hip surgery. And for all of those 15 years, we've just been given excuse after excuse not to operate on her. Surgeons have told us Katie's too weak. If they operated on her, she'd never walk again. Wait till she stops growing. She's too young for surgery. She's too old for surgery. The list goes on of like different excuses.
And what about the pain that she's been
in? She's in constant pain, but at this stage, and I hate saying it, like, you know, she's used to that pain.
Okay.
You know, it's like an eagle that you're just like, yeah, I'll get on with it. Like, now for the past couple of nights, she's awake all night. I'm walking around like a zombie, like dosed up on coffee to try and keep me awake. Like, but the pain like is intensifying now the last couple of nights because I don't know why. But she's just nothing is working. Like I'm stretching her legs out, they're not working.
Yeah. What about her quality? What about her quality of life for all those years, Antoinette? I mean,
like she's missed so much school because obviously she's in pain. Like she had surgery in 2014 in America. That surgery is called selective dorsal rhodostomy. That got her out of her wheelchair and up walking. Katie couldn't walk beforehand. And this surgery, she could now, like, she could walk independently after having that surgery. But, like, she's kind of deteriorated kind of backwards in the last, I'd say, 7 or 8 years that, you know, her hip is starting to give her more trouble.
And will she end up in a wheelchair again if she doesn't have proper surgery? Is that it?
What here, like, I actually confronted Niall Martin last October at his thinking in the Rochestown Park Hotel and told him Katie's story. And he in turn got in touch with Bernard Gloucester to say, like, to find out what was going on. And Bernard Gloucester got in touch with one of Katie's consultants who actually told us that she was too weak for surgery. And he has now said that Katie needs a full hip replacement. And we actually have a surgeon that we brought Katie to see, Dr. Paley, he's in the Paley Institute in Florida. He can reconstruct Katie's hip.
And that can't be done here, is that fair to say?
No, they've told us, like, there's one consultant actually told us, like, there is no surgeon in this country that can do the surgery that Dr. Paley is doing.
Right, but this guy in Florida, this guy in Florida can do this. And would that give her a whole other lease of life, do you think, Antoinette?
Yeah, because he's going to, like, reconstruct Katie's hip completely. So she'll still have her own hip. Where if she gets a hip replacement, that'll have to keep being replaced over and over and over again. She also has, like, one leg shorter than the other, so he's going to fix, like, make her that she's level. Because at the moment, and she doesn't mind me saying it, she walks like a penguin. Just a little waddle. Yeah. And, you know, obviously because one leg is shorter than the other. So he's going to do all that, reconstruct everything in the one operation. Where here, all they're going to do is replace her hip, leaving her with a twisted femur, leaving her with a retroverted pelvis, and one leg shorter than the other. So,
and I presume that she has had issues with scoliosis as well, does she, Antoinette?
Well, I've been saying this for years, that I thought she had scoliosis, and they kept telling me no. And when we saw this consultant after I confronted Niall Martin, I asked him to check her spine. And he actually said, yeah, there is a curve there, but it's from the way she's standing. Obviously, it's from the way she's standing because her body is starting to curve.
Of course, yes.
You know, so, like, we were told, they, like, obviously, like, they're sending children with scoliosis and spina bifida for surgeries to America, which is absolutely amazing. And we were told at the time, because Katie doesn't have scoliosis, she doesn't fit that criteria to go to America. they're paying for children with scoliosis to go and have surgeries.
But they won't pay for Katie.
At the time, she didn't have a diagnosis of scoliosis at that time. But saying that, just because she doesn't have scoliosis doesn't say that her medical health any less important than any other child.
Of course. And now, she's 19 now, is she?
She's 19, yeah. She was 19 last Tuesday.
And is that part of the issue, that once she gets over 18, she's seen as being an adult? Does that add to the problem?
Well, they actually sent her to see an adult surgeon at the age of 15. Because apparently your bones stop growing when you're 15.
Okay.
Sorry, excuse me. And that surgeon, again, said the same thing, that she was too weak for surgery.
All right.
And if he operated on her, that she'd be more reliant on her wheelchair.
So you're in the position then that if you want her to be operated on by Dr. Pelly in Florida, it's going to cost $300,000.
Yeah, we're on our own.
So you're on your own to find this money?
To find $300,000. That is the surgery, flights, accommodation, living expenses when we're over there, any equipment Katie will need, physio before she goes, after she comes back, because we all know the way the health service is here. She's not going to get physio. So I have to account for all that. That when she comes back, because there's no point in her getting this major surgery and not getting physiotherapy. So I have to, that's the whole cost.
And how are you doing so far with the, I know you have a GoFundMe, and we'll give that out in just a few moments' time, but how are you going so far with the fundraising?
So far we've raised just over 38,000. Now it's been hard, because obviously cost of living isn't friendly. But people have been so kind. You know, they've donated what they can.
Right,
but we're still.
But I presume the sooner she has this surgery, the better, because things are deteriorating.
Yeah,
the longer it's being left.
Deteriorate more than, and the cold weather doesn't help, because obviously the cold is now seeping into her bones, and she's in more pain then as well.
Does she have friends? Does she socialise? What? Tell me a bit about her. Tell me a bit about her life.
She has some brilliant friends now. In fairness, they're brilliant with her. Like, they look out for her. She does go out, but she has to restrict her time on how long she's out, because if she's out too long, her legs play up. She can't. She's in pain then for days afterwards. So. It's kind of, it's great that she can get out, but she's the one that pays for it afterwards. Like, most of the time when she goes out, she brings her wheelchair with her, because it's easier than trying to, like, if she goes into the city, trying to walk around the whole city, yourself.
Of course,
You're out for the day.
And does she like to, does she like to read? Does she like to watch TV? What does she like to do?
Oh, she is a bookworm. Like, she has a library.
Is she? Isn't that fantastic?
She loves her books, like. Yeah. She has her social media, but she's not really. It's kind of, she just keeps in touch with her friends on it. She doesn't really do social media herself, like.
Well, she's probably spent so much time recovering from the various conditions that reading was probably solace to her, I suppose, in some sort of a way.
It is. It's kind of, it gives her kind of.
In terms of the fundraising, then, how can people help, Antoinette? Where should they go to donate?
Well, we have a GoFundMe. It's Help Katie Keep Walking. If you just go through GoFundMe that way, or you can go on to Katie's Facebook page. It's Katie's Fight to Keep Walking, and the link to her GoFundMe is on there.
All right, and we will have that up on our own platforms here as well, so people can access that there. I wish you the best of luck. Have you given yourself a time goal where this is concerned to raise the money, Antoinette?
Well, I was hoping. I actually put a post up on our page the other day. If we could get 60,000 people to donate €5, we would have that 60,000 by, or the 300,000 by Christmas Eve.
Right. Wouldn't that be a fantastic Christmas present? Yeah.
Like, to be able to wake up Christmas morning and say to her, look, we have the money, it would just mean... I actually don't know what it mean to her, to be honest. I'd say it'd be better than winning the law. Like.
Yeah, that 2026 could be Katie's year. So the GoFundMe, Help Katie Get Hip Surgery, if people look that up, or her own Facebook page again is Katie's Fight to...
Keep walking.
To keep walking, okay. All right. Well, will you give her our best wishes, Antoinette? And good to talk to you today, and thanks for coming on with us.
Thanks a million for your help, Fran.
Thank you, and bye-bye to you now. That's Antoinette speaking to us there about her daughter, Katie, and of course Barb on to make a very interesting point, saying our government can find 300,000 for a bike shed. Surely they could find the money to save a young person's future, says Barb to us today, and it's a very, very good point indeed. 083 311 3311.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
The Nina branch of Midlands Living Links launched in June of 2025. They currently provide support to people living in and around Nina Bursacane and Clough-Jordan who are bereaved by suicide. They're planning to extend support to Ross Gray. Sue Braisby is secretary of the organisation, and she joins me now. Sue, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran.
And good to talk to you today. I was reading some of the info you gave. About 10 people, including children and young people, die by suicide each week in Ireland. That's very stark, isn't it?
It is, Fran. It's a significant number, although the data says it's reducing. It's still significant because for every death, there's approximately 60 people who are directly impacted. And of course, we're talking about people who've lost their parent, their child or young adult, a brother, sister. It affects grandparents, neighbours, friends. So it remains a significant concern, really, in our communities in Ireland, both rural and urban.
And the kind of support you give to those affected by suicide is what exactly, Sue?
Well, we respond directly to people themselves who've been bereaved, who ask for help. There's no referral process. We have a helpline, and the number is 087 225 0215, and we provide a range of supports in line with people's wishes. So, for example, we may visit people at home or provide telephone support. Every month, on the first Tuesday in every month, in Nina, the Pastoral Centre, we provide a group support meeting. And also, we're available now to support people at inquests in Nina in line with their wishes.
And that's particularly difficult for families, I would imagine.
It's extremely difficult because, unfortunately, there's often a significant delay from the period of the funeral through to the inquest. It's not uncommon for that to be more than a year. And even when the inquest is held, many people tell us it doesn't bring closure. The loss, it's delayed the grief in some cases. And everybody's experience is different.
Yes.
But we want to know, people to know we're here, whether your loss is recent or happened a long time ago.
And do you come across people who mightn't have dealt or grieved for a loss many, many years ago, and maybe now they're only confronting this in some way?
We do, Fran. Everybody has a busy life. We know people who've been busy bringing up their own children or caring for another family member often feel they have to put it aside in order to keep going. And it's often only later, when they are at different crossroads in their lives, that the loss emerges.
And of course, many years ago, suicide was viewed as sinful by the Catholic Church as well, and some of the funerals were really, really unfortunate indeed at those times. So there's probably open wounds from those years as well.
There certainly is, because it was only in 1993 that suicide was no longer seen to be against the law. So, that's quite recent, really, in lots of ways. And it has been hard because the history has meant stigma for people.
Yes.
And the sense of often shame and isolation. And, we haven't got in our communities yet the sort of ability, I think, sometimes to share, deep emotional feelings and to know who can you let these feelings of anger or real sadness or grief, who can you share them with? And communities are caring, in my experience, but sometimes they don't know how to help best as well, particularly when it's been a long time ago.
Of course, and Sue, is it listening? Is that the secret to what you do? Just to listen to the stories and the concerns? Is that it? It's simple on one level, but I think the power is in that most of our volunteers, they know what it feels like. They've been through the pain of losing a loved one through suicide, and that creates an awful lot of empathy, walking in each other's shoes. And actually, research has shown that peer support, people reaching out with a shared experience to help another person, is really powerful. We're not counsellors. We're there to listen and to support and to help the person as they figure out exactly what they're thinking, feeling, and that can be very complex and can change from day to day. Yeah, and is there a common denominator in terms of people wondering why they didn't spot the signs, wondering why, I suppose, and often that's not very clear either. Are those the common denominators, Sue?
I would say that that's really a strong issue in terms of loss by suicide, because you're not able to see why the person did what they did. You're left with if onlys, why. And one of the hardest things to accept is that you can never really know. And what we do know is that people are very good at masking their feelings.
Yeah.
And we just have to realise sometimes we can't know. And their pain, they've reached a place where no one could have reached them, despite the best efforts.
Is there still stigma around this?
I believe there is, and certainly people tell me that there is still a stigma, and all the old sort of ignorant sayings, really, in terms of these sort of things running families and matters like that. It is hard. It is hard for people to deal with loss by suicide, and there are still a need for education. I mean, we often talk in our team in MENA about the importance of children in schools being educated about loss by suicide. And what we know, of course, is that children and adults, many people think when they're in desperate situations about ending their life. Most don't, thank God. But it's stigma can fester when people are not empowered to talk about, feeling really low and wanting to die, which is obviously the situation people are in.
With any loss, Sue, as you well know, there are milestones, and I suppose we're coming up towards Christmas now at this point, and I would imagine families then around Christmas time particularly would feel low and feel saddened by the loss through suicide.
Absolutely, Fran. I mean, December and January are cold, lonely months at the best of times, but not having a loved one around the table and trying to figure out what that loss is at Christmas can be really difficult for people. The advice really is that it is difficult. Recognise it is difficult, but make sure that you look after yourself and think in advance some of the best ways that you might be able to cope. Whether that is how you talk to each other about the loved one that's gone, doing a favourite thing that you used to do with them, sharing memories. It is difficult, but it's finding ways that you can weave in the memory of the person who's made such an impact in your life that is no longer there with you.
The service that you provide, I know, you and your team, is free of charge, Sue. And just to repeat again, if people want to make contact with you or indeed join your group, and you meet, how often again did you say you meet? Once a month, isn't it?
Yeah, the first Tuesday in every month from 7:30.
Yes. So that's at the Pastoral Centre there, is it?
It is the Pastoral Centre, yeah.
At 7:30. And again, that phone number, if people want to make contact with you?
It's 087 225 0215. We're volunteers, so the phone will go through to an answer phone, but it's picked up each day.
All right. Sue, good to talk to you today, and we wish you well. Thank you for coming on with me. Thank you. Good morning.
I really appreciate it, and we want people to know that the help is there should they want it.
All right. Thank you, Sue, and good morning to you. That's Sue Braisby there, who is Secretary of Midlands Living Links, and there is now Anina branch there and supporting people around the Borsa-Cane-Clough-Jordan area as well, and hopeful that they'll be able to move into the Rossgrey area in the next while too. 1800 938 007. Deirdre was on. She said, I'm so angry listening to Antoinette speaking about her severely sick daughter, Katie. What a disgrace that our health service is. If they can't look after the children of this country that need medical surgeries here and abroad and pay for them, what have we become when we have to go on the radio to highlight the suffering of the sick and having to raise money to help them? Seemingly, we are awash with tax money, which is ours, but they don't spend it on us. It's bloody shameful. This is Deirdre.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938 007. Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puck-On. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puck-On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tiptoday@tippfm.com.
Now it's time to talk interior design with Karen Prendergast. Good morning to you, Karen, and good to see you. A little bit different today because you're going to look at Christmas and preparing the house for Christmas and what we can do. And all
I know
of that
there will be some that'll have them up already, the decorations or whatever. But yeah, just a few
Are you
nights.
serious? Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I see it every so often.
Yeah. I kind of my birthday's the 16th of December. Not that matters at all. So I tend to do a little bit around the 16th. At home, we always put up the tree for the 16th.
Yes.
So that'll be my day that I'll do a little bit, and then after that, immediately after Christmas, everything will be gone.
Immediately?
That's normally.
Oh, you don't
gone.
wait until the 6th of January or anything like that?
No, I can't. I just want to get everything gone.
Clutter.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Okay.
Yeah.
So, start with a clean slate is what you're saying,
So
basically,
I suppose
Karen,
before you add anything festive, declutter a little bit of what you already have out to make space. Now, I'm not saying get declutter and get rid of everything for the year, but declutter to make a little bit of space. So clear away your everyday thing like your extra vases, maybe your table decor. You might be putting out Christmas, some people, I wouldn't, but might be putting out Christmas cushions and throws if you are, get rid of the other ones, because they make the space look extra crowded, and it's going to be crowded a little bit more than normal when you put up your decorations. I would say I would always give a bit of a deep clean to key areas. So like your entryways, if you're going to have some Christmas decorations out there, mantelpieces, surfaces that you're going to decorate, dust them off and kind of clean them down and get them ready for getting your decorations up.
Yeah, and what did you tell me last year? You said a theme.
Yeah, so I have a theme in the corner of my front room, and I have very little in the kitchen, but I always get fresh flowers, Christmas kind of coloured flowers and whatever.
Yeah.
But I have a jester, a life-size jester, I was telling you this last year as well, and it sits on a chair, a cream chair, and the jester is cream. And then I have a kind of, not a regular Christmas tree, but it's a weeping willow tree, and I put that up and I make a theme in that corner, and then I will dress one of the dressers up as well, and that's it in the front room. And then in the kitchen inside I have a very special angel Merry Christmas, the spelling Merry Christmas, and I'll do some vases of flowers and stuff like that.
That's very interesting. So you pick a spot.
Yep.
And you decorate that as opposed to the whole house.
As opposed to the whole house.
Interesting.
So
yeah.
I do a nice grouping together, so it's quite impactful.
Yeah.
And I leave it at that. And it'll always be colour coordinated and colour.
And is it more powerful because it's isolated?
I think it is.
It's making a statement.
Yeah, personally I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of when I come in my front on the right hand side where I come in the door, there is space for decorations, not putting them all over the place. I'll do a really nice scene in one area, and the same in the kitchen. I'll pick maybe one or two shelves, I'll do that up, and I'm into angels, so I'll have my angels and I'll have my Merry Christmas and I'll have my vases of flowers, and I'll kind of have an extra few candle holders because I like candles and candle holders, and then I'll leave it at that.
And do you use the same stuff every year, or do you add to the...
No, when I moved house, as you know, about 6 years ago, so I probably gave away a little bit of stuff, and then I added on a few little bits because it would have been a smaller area I'm decorating, and I leave it at that. So I was saying this to you last year, I have big black boxes that I got in a local hardware store, and they're quite big, and the jester fits into it because it is life size, but you can mould it down. And I have two of these big black boxes, and everything Christmas goes in there. They go out into the shed, so all I have to do is take back out those two boxes and everything's in them. It sounds like I'm really boring and tidy. I'm not, but
it makes life easier.
It makes life easier.
Yeah,
so we're going to go through some tips to...
All right, so give us some of those tips then, Karen.
And so start with a clean slate. We've just spoken about that.
Yeah.
The second thing is to choose a theme or a palette. So that is design like a professional. Pick one or two, or even if you have the 3 colours, and stick to them. You could have forest green, gold and ivory, blush and copper and cream. That blush pink, that's really in at the moment as well. And what's been in for several years is that lovely blue and white and gold. Now that's
and what
gorgeous.
are you talking about in
Christmas
colours here?
decorations?
In Christmas decorations,
yeah, in Christmas
okay.
decorations, as opposed to Christmas tree. I'm always of the opinion, keep the lights plain.
Right.
And the one colour. So maybe some lights are yellow toned, some lights are white toned, some lights are blue toned. I would be inclined to, whatever lights you're using in the house or in the one area for different rooms, that's okay. Use the one coloured lights because it makes it an awful lot more classier.
Yes. All right. What else have you got for us?
And consider your existing interior. So again, modern homes might suit soft metallics and whites, whereas traditional space might suit the reds, the greens and plaids and stuff like that, and keep the style consistent in each room. Third thing is access your space. So before buying or unpacking your decorations, make sure that you know where your power outlets are. Ensure that the traffic flow isn't disrupted by any of the Christmas decorations, so that you're not going to fall over anything, you're not going to fall over any wires or anything that you're going to have plugged in. And for smaller spaces, use vertical decorating and don't have too much of it. So decorating your mantelpieces and, you know, having a nice garland on that and falling down either side. Maybe think about decorating your shelves, which I do in my kitchen area. Instead of everything going on the floor, use furniture that you've already got in the house.
Good tip.
Layer your lighting thoughtfully. So lighting creates a magic look. So mix ambient with task and accent lighting. Twinkle lights, which is our standard Christmas lights, candles and warm lamps. So use the lamps and the candle holders you have already and add them in with your Christmas theme already. You don't need to be buying more and more and more. Use what you have and make those work for you.
Okay.
All right. So the next tip then would be to bring in some natural elements from outside.
Like what?
Evergreen branches, pine cones, dried oranges, eucalyptus. For a few years when I'd be out walking in the mornings when the... well, any time of the day, but mostly I'd be out walking in the mornings and the pine cones would be after falling off the trees. I'd gather them. A certain amount of them, and then I might spray them different colours with a spray paint or whatever.
Nice. And
I'd have them for free. And it's not that I wanted them for free, but it gave me something to do and to look forward to getting ready for Christmas. And, you know, evergreen branches and the pine cones, you can definitely, and even the eucalyptus, you can get them for free out in nature.
Yeah.
So edit and balance then is the next
What do you mean by that?
So think in groups of odd numbers, 3 or 5. That's something that you do in flower arranging as well, or with flowers, odd numbers. So leave negative space around your decorations as well. So this creates like a curated look, like you intentionally left those spaces. So for instance, if you're doing a sideboard, you don't have to fill every single bit of the sideboard or the shelf with lots and lots of decorations. Less is more.
Right.
Less is more. And
it's more of a statement, I guess, is it?
It is, and it's classy.
Yeah.
So
sure. Just go back to the odd numbers. What do you mean by that?
So 1, 3, 5, and I mean you can go higher if you're building bigger elements and bigger decorations, but they look much better than 2, 4, 6.
Oh.
And that comes from, I did a diploma in flower floristry years ago in London, and that was something I learned then.
Was it?
So when you're kind of looking at flowers or decorating, uneven numbers look much better than even numbers.
Do they?
Yeah. If anybody Googles that, they'll find
textures then and layers.
Yeah. So to make your home rich and inviting, and again to make it look high end, layer your fabrics and finishes like your velvet cushions, your wool throws, your metallic accents if you already have them or you have bought some especially for Christmas. And a lot of people, it's not me anymore, but there was once upon a time I'm going to call them smelly candles and incense and stuff like that, but now I can't have them anymore with my allergies. But add seasonal scents like cinnamon, clove, all different types of beautiful looking and smelly candles, and that adds to the sensory experience. I was in a hotel in Dublin the weekend, and many moons ago I remember one of the managers telling me that this particular hotel, if any of the management or the owners walked into a hotel, they always had to have, this is a true story now, 5 candles burning in the foyer area, and that was always a set rule. So, and the smell in there last Saturday was unbelievable. Gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous, and of course everything was so Christmassy, and everybody was out in their wool coats or their fur coats and their best Christmas gear on as well. You know, I have to say, maybe it's because I was born in December, I don't know. I don't particularly like Christmas Day, but I love the build up to Christmas.
Why don't you like Christmas Day?
I don't know. I always found it, and still find it, a very long day. And I think, but maybe I could be wrong now, but from talking to other people as well and doing the life coaching throughout the years as well, before, there's big expectations for Christmas Day, and it doesn't often work. It doesn't always work out. Not that the dinner gets destroyed or anything like that, but there's such a build up to it, and some people put so much into Christmas Day and then it's gone and it's over, and it was kind of like, oh, all that for this.
It's an anticlimax.
Yeah, but I suppose, again, that's only a personal thing. But, Christmas is costly, and a lot of people put a lot of effort into Christmas, and then it is just one day, you know.
We were speaking to Sue just a few moments ago, and for a lot of people, it's a milestone as well if they've lost somebody, so it can be difficult indeed. Yeah. You're going to talk to us as well about preparing the storage solutions post-Christmas.
It's like me with my big black plastic boxes. But I mean, the reality is...
Because if you're careful about putting them away, it makes it so much easier, doesn't it?
I remember years ago at home, and when we take out anybody listening now that'll know me, take out the lights at Christmas, and they're all mangled, they're all twisted and mangled, and then you take them apart.
Have you been peeking in our house again?
You're definitely going to break some of the lights, Fran, and then you mightn't have, the little one that you can take it back out the centre and put it back in again. But honestly,
every year,
if you could prepare the storage solutions, it would be half the battle. So think ahead before you're putting them up. So use clear labelled bins for ornaments and garlands if you can, and you can see what's in them.
Yes.
And if you haven't got clear ones, maybe make a sticky label or an A4 piece of paper, write everything that you're putting into the particular box, because some people might have cardboard boxes or whatever. Write what's in the boxes, and next year when you pull out the box, it'll be written on it, or you can see into it what you have in the box. So that's the first thing. Store the lights neatly around some kind of a tube that they're easy to get back off again, and they're not damaged. Because in fairness, who wants to go replacing something that you already have, because there's a cost to that.
But that's a lovely tip to
it is. I mean,
wrap them around.
It is. Yeah. It could be maybe some plastic tubing. It could be a kitchen roll that you can use the inside roll of that, or anything that you can think of at home. Because if you are buying Christmas presents and a whole lot, there's chances that you will get some kind of cardboard that you can wrap those lights around.
Yeah. And I know you want to talk to us about colours, but before we leave preparation, if you were to go out and buy a Christmas tree, what would you buy?
I would definitely buy something.
Depends on the space, I guess.
It depends on the space, so I definitely would buy something neutral. So, for instance, in a different house that I had before, I used to have a black tree in the front hall. It was quite a big front hall, and I had a black tree. Now, again, I'm not talking about myself, but this is what I did. I had a black tree, and I decorated that tree with black and gold decorations in the front hall. In the conservatory, I had the weeping willow tree, which is white, so it's a branch of a tree that comes up and it weeps, and I had all white and I still have all white decorations and just clear glass. Very simple, very elegant. And then in the dining room I had a green tree, and that had red and green and clear decorations. So I would say black is a bit way out there. White is definitely in if it's a nice white tree and a special tree, but you can never go wrong with a green tree that looks real. Okay. Or, of course, a real tree.
Right. Okay, so there's the options. All right, if people want to grab pens and pencils and stuff.
And any scraps, because I know I was talking to someone last week and they said they had to dive into the bin at work to get a piece of cardboard to write those. So anyway, today what I've decided to do is take some greens and show you another neutral colour with them, a plainish colour that would work with them. So the first green is fabulous. I used it once on a big high hall in a wall and hallway. It's gorgeous. And would you believe
it's a dark green, isn't it?
It's called Christmas wreath.
Oh, is it indeed? All right.
So especially for today, a lovely colour to go alongside that would be powdered shell. So the first one is Christmas
just to remind
wreath.
listeners again, if you Google the name that Karen gives you, you'll get
the swatch up.
Okay.
You'll get the colour up. So Christmas wreath is the first green, and a nice neutral colour to go alongside that is powdered shell. Mm-hmm. The next colour is keystone.
Okay, how do you describe that colour?
I would say it's a mucky green. It's a mucky green.
A mucky green. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Nothing as dark as the Christmas wreath.
It doesn't look green at all to me, but then again,
it's gorgeous. Yeah. And beside that, I've put temperance, kind of a pale cream. So that looks really well. So that is keystone and temperance.
Okay.
Yep.
What else?
That's my second selection. My third selection is 4 arches. Again, a very dark green. very like the colour of a Christmas tree, 4 arches, and beside that I've put Kittiwake, Kittiwake.
And that's like a cream, is it?
It's a creamy with a hint of green in it.
Right, Kittiwake.
Wake, so 4 arches and Kittiwake.
Right, and when you say they would match, you're talking about...
So if you wanted to use this 4 arches just on one wall, the other 3 walls, you could use a Kittiwake on it if you wanted to.
Okay, very good indeed. But we only have time for one more.
Yeah, and the last one is Burrowing.
Okay.
A medium green, and alongside that I've used the colour Ivory Tusk.
Okay, very, very good indeed. If people want to talk to you, Karen,
they can contact me on 086 606 9009 and Interior Concepts on Instagram, Facebook and my website.
All right, great to see you as always, Karen.
Thank you, Fran.
Thanks very much indeed. News and information is coming up.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24111.
And you're very welcome back to Tip Today. 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number. Responding to what Karen was talking about there, about preparing for Christmas and Christmas decorations and all of that. Sadie is in Ballinura in Carrick-on-Suir. She said, I wrap my Christmas lights around a brandy bottle. I have used the same bottle for years, says Sadie. Hey Fran, just do what we do with the Christmas tree. Put a bin liner over it, lights and all, put it in the attic. Simple as that. Patrick is on with something similar. He says wrap the tree with all of the lights ornaments in cling film and covered in plastic bags up in the attic. No messing. And just unwrap and plug it in, says Patrick. Okay, I see. He used to play a gig years ago and they had a Christmas tree and they'd put it in the dressing room when Christmas was over. But every year you go back, the tree would be sort of pulled out. And as the years went, they didn't sort of fix up the tree at any point or add to it or improve it. So the tree deteriorated, as you can imagine, over years. But it was always gives us a laugh to see the state of it. Anyway, a listener says, I'm a family carer and I'm sick and tired of hearing parents, including myself, coming on the radio and other platforms to beg for life-saving medical procedures or other services. And even as you speak, we have family carers out there wondering how to keep the lights and the heat on, not eating so they can give the vulnerable person they care for the essential basic things they require. Our leaders in Tipperary and in the country, do your job and get these surgeries. Find the money, bring in the expertise, no more excuses, get it done now, says one of our listeners on 083 311 3311.
For every problem, there's a solution. Dear Phil, on Tip Today with Phil Prendergast.
Good morning, Phil. How are you?
Very well, Fran. How are you?
Do you know what? I can't complain, because if I do, there'll be trouble around here, so I better not say anything, Phil. So will we launch in?
We'll go straight into it.
All right, letter number 1. Dear Phil, my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer last year, and while we knew our time was going to be quite short, we tried to fill it as much as we could with positive memories. My problem now is that my dad has gone very downhill in recent weeks and is now confined to bed. It's now just a matter of time. I thought I had prepared myself for this. I knew it was coming, but it's hitting differently than how I thought. I always imagined that I would be at his bedside and it would all be calm and peaceful, but I can't bring myself to go there. I find I'm spending less and less time with him and doing anything I can not to be in the room with him. My sister has noticed and is trying to coax me to stay for longer, but I just can't do it. I feel like a coward and I feel like I'm letting him down. It's not that he's in distress, because he isn't. It's just that he looks different with a massive weight loss and he looks nothing like the man that I looked up to all my life. Sometimes I even find myself wishing that he would just die so I didn't have to feel guilty any longer. And then I feel guilt for wishing that. I just don't know how to deal with watching this wonderful, lovely man slowly dying in front of my eyes. My other family don't feel the same. Why is it just me that's being a coward?
You see, she's not being a coward at all. It's a natural, very natural reaction when somebody is at the end of life. And her father isn't aware that she's not... She's putting herself under a lot of pressure, I think, you know, just to have... I suppose that she feels that she wants to be there for him and all the rest of it. You can only do so much. And I think it's probably very, very difficult when you're not coming to terms with something that's inevitable and it's facing us all. You know, there's nobody going to escape this. Nobody can just say, puff, I'm gone.
Of course, yeah.
So, you know, she says that she's trying to have good, positive memories. Well, there's lots and lots of positive memories she will have from all of her life knowing her dad. So because this is a very emotional time, and it is when somebody changes to that extent and they're near the end of life, they're not really aware of what's going on around them that much because they're busy dying. And I suppose usually at this stage of life as well, when somebody has a diagnosis with cancer and they're on medication, and really the medication can put them out of range of knowing what's going on for everyone else.
And that's your experience of that,
Absolutely,
Phil? Yes.
absolutely. Okay. And I remember when my own dad was dying, he was diagnosed and dead within 3 weeks. Now, he had a great 3 weeks. He had the best friends around and pints came across the green Ballyraggett. It was very funny. But, you know, he died. And I and my brother that lives in Finland were the only two that weren't there with him. But, you know, it's a sad time, but it's an inevitable part of living, is to be facing death at some point.
It's a pity that she's questioning herself and she's feeling guilty herself for what seems to be a natural enough feeling.
And it is it's a complete natural part of life. Death has always been part of life. And we're all going to end up that in that place. So, you know, she thinks she had herself prepared. But I don't know, Fran, if anyone is ever prepared to lose a loved one. Now, there's so many different elements to death and people dying. I mean, accidents, unexpected losses, people getting involved in crashes and stuff like that. It can be terribly, terribly shocking. And we've recently, of course, had the tragedies here, and you talk about young people and dying, and when you don't expect somebody to be dying when they're young. But this man has probably lived a long and healthy, relatively healthy life until he got this diagnosis, and his end is very near. And she needs to just appreciate that she can be with him and can help the transitioning. And perhaps she should do, even she went in to talk to a bereavement counsellor, I think it would eminently help her here.
I think so too, but we feel sorry for her though, because it's a tough time. Our second letter then, Phil. Dear Phil, my wife and I were married for over 40 years. We had a great life together. I adored the woman and I thought she felt the same, but now I'm starting to wonder if that was ever true. 35 years ago we had a beautiful baby boy who was the light of our lives. He was our only child and would forever be our only child because we were not able to have any more. But our hearts were broken when he was just 4 years old. I was involved in a car crash with my son in which he was killed. My God. To this day I still don't know what happened. I have no memory of it, so there will always be questions. My wife and I carried each other through, although the pain of his loss never left us. We carried on as best we could while always remembering him, and we both vowed to live a good life in his honour. My wife sadly died 3 months ago, and in the process of clearing out some of her things, I came across her diaries, which I wasn't even aware she had. I thought it would be a great insight into this wonderful woman I loved, but instead, what I read left me devastated. She wrote for years about how mad she was with me about the death of our son, and she would never really forgive me. The words she wrote were so angry and visceral, I had no idea. She never spoke to me about it, never said a cross word to me. We would often speak of our son and would celebrate his birthday every year, so why didn't she ever talk to me about her anger and blame? I'm so confused about it. I wonder if the woman I thought I was married to for so many years was just living a lie with me. How can I make sense of this?
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it, Fran? Yeah. Look, it's when something like that, when a tragedy happens in your life and you lose the most loved thing, you never thought you could love somebody like that.
Yeah.
It's a horrendous situation, but his wife dealt with the grief differently than him. And he wasn't aware that she was journaling, which is a very good way of getting through a sad loss or what seems to be a terrible tragedy.
It's like a catharsis, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the saddest thing was, I suppose, they never could go ahead and have more children because that wasn't possible for them. Not that you can replace a child that you lose, because you can't. So look, I think he, again, like the previous question, she was dealing with her loss the way she could. And he's only found out about it now because he wasn't aware she had journals. Now, that, again, is a natural part of the whole process of having lost somebody. And he, I suppose, he obviously had an element of guilt about the fact that he can't remember how the child ended up getting killed. But that was probably the shock of the accident or whatever that happened. So, look, it seems like it would be, again, and I know I often mention counselling in this context, but it's a very relevant thing to talk things out with trained people. And sometimes it's great to go off and talk with your friends and go out for a coffee or go for a walk or go for a drink or whatever. But in some cases where you have a particular tragedy and you're left very wounded and very lost over it, it's really a good idea to talk to a counsellor and get help.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know various therapies I would have been involved with over the years. You'd be advised to write things down as you view something, because that in itself is putting it out there. It's not necessarily for other people to digest what you're reading, though. And is he seeing this as completely relevant to him as opposed to his wife's therapy? I suppose is what I'm saying.
He said the words she wrote were so angry and visceral. I had no idea. She never spoke to him about it, and she never said a cross word. But she wrote down her anger and her cross words because she didn't want to fight with her husband.
Yes, I know.
And they had a long and good relationship. And she's only died 3 months ago. He's feeling bad now because he feels she was carrying all this anger against him. But in fact, she had written it into the diaries, and that's a way. Journaling is a way of getting, getting your thoughts in process, getting your thoughts together, and dealing and living and continue to be, a good person. It's a sad story, this, Fran, because only the one little child, and then at 4 years old, and you can imagine how cute those little 4-year-olds and 2-year-olds, and they're just gorgeous, and it's an awful tragedy. But I think she dealt with her anger by journaling, and he wasn't aware of it until she passed away.
All right, very, very sad indeed. Our third letter then, dear Phil, I'm struggling to deal with terrible guilt I've had for losing my cool with my child. I have 3 children, all close in age, so it can sometimes be a bit hectic, but I always prided myself in being a good, even-tempered parent. We were out at a swimming pool recently, and my youngest boy, who was 6, had a full-blown trauma about a slide he couldn't go on. I did all the usual tricks to pacify him, but nothing would work. His tantrum just got worse and louder. He totally lost control. I was also losing control, and I decided to remove him from the pool. I took him to the changing room. I told him to get dressed, that we're going home if he can't behave himself. I'm ashamed to say I dragged him by the arm into the changing room, and when he wouldn't stop roaring, I gave him a little slap on the head, but as a result, he accidentally bumped his head on an open locker as we walked past. I felt awful immediately, and the incident seemed to shock us back to our senses. Now, I apologised to him for hitting him. He apologised to me for the tantrum, but I haven't been able to shake the guilt for that. I even convinced myself and that there would be video footage of it from the changing room, the poor dote, and that it would be put online and the kids would be taken from me. I'm racked with guilt and sadness that I could lose it like that. I've never hit or slapped my child before. I'm afraid to talk to anybody about it in case they think I'm an awful mother. What should I do?
Oh, she should just relax, honest to God. I mean, children are fractious. Was he the youngest of the 3? At age 6?
I think so.
Anyway, look, he was
the youngest.
He was a little bit jiggy, and he reacted And she decided, I'm going to put manners on him and we're going to take out the good fun out of this day. And of course he got into a meltdown. This is completely normal behaviour for a 6-year-old, being honest with you. Now what I'm very surprised about is that he actually had to be able to apologise for a tantrum. A 6-year-old. I'd be waiting, I can tell you, for any 6-year-old.
Possibly, though, she apologised to him for hitting him, and maybe it all started.
Yeah, well, hopefully this is what, and it does sound like that's what happened. The two of them had a kind of a meltdown. He got out of control. She equally went out of control. Yeah. She joined him in his angst and in his temper tantrum, and so the two of them got into a bit of it. She's overthinking it now. She said, I'm racked with guilt and sadness that I could lose it like that. It's kind of normal at some point in your life that you would have a fallout with one of your kids. It's kind of normal thing to happen, as long as it's not continuously happening and you're not continuously giving them a root every time they do something wrong. But I mean, it's just a situation where, you know, she needs to be very rational and very balanced and just say, look, if you're going to the pool, you need to behave a certain way and this is the way we want to do it. I don't want you to make a show of me and I don't want to make a show of you.
This, of course, would have played out, well, the initial part of it in front of people, and that kind of adds to the whole
Well, you
thing,
see, it does,
you know?
Because it's kind of embarrassing as well for the child if their mother is dragging him by the ear or the shoulder or whatever part she had caught.
Yes.
You know, and, you know, so she was trying to get back into the control situation. But the problem is both of them kind of got out of control. And it's always worse, I think, if you're going to do that in the public eye, because there's people,
of course,
looking at you and judging, like, as people do.
Absolutely, they do indeed. And then the poor dote, she started to spiral and think it was all being recorded and videoed and that it would end up on social media. Isn't
it the thing? Because none of us know who's recording us or where we're being recorded.
Yeah.
But there's now, like, there are cameras everywhere. So you can be rest assured that if you're walking along the street minding your own business or whatever, or you're stopping in every shop or you're stopping in whatever, you are recorded going into shops, coming out of shops. There's so much surveillance of people now that it's a natural thing to say, well, you know, she has form. She did. But so it can be very troublesome, a worrying time. But I think the fact that they apologised to each other and kind of got back on stream, I think they did the right thing. But it's difficult when you lose the head in front of people. You're kind of letting yourself down as well as the child.
Of course,
you know.
It's important to point out that never happened before. Obviously, it never happened since.
Yeah. Well, I would say it's a lesson learned, and it is. Especially if you're, like, people can have a lot of things on their minds. It's not always about just the child is going for a swim, we're going to do this, we're going to that. You might be worrying about a bill that came in the door, you might be worrying about what are we cooking for this evening, or, you know, there could be lots of things going on with people's lives that we don't know anything about, and sometimes it can result in a meltdown.
Well, that's for sure. People listening, if you have something that you'd like Phil to have a look at, all you have to do is email us. It's tiptoday@tipfm.com. And if you put Dear Phil in the subject bar, we will know what you're at. Phil, pleasure as always. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Fran.
And indeed, straight away into us, we have a listener who says, back when we were young, Fran, whenever we stepped out of line, the crap would be beaten out of us, sense beaten into us. And sure, we're grand. Well, I'm delighted you're grand after all of that trauma, but there you go. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think nowadays anybody would condone slapping or hitting a child. It's just not the thing. A recent video from South Tipperary Development Company focused on 17-year-old Joe Hawkins, who has been a local activist in the Ellen Park area for quite a while, and now he's been a guest on the show quite often as well, and he joins me again. Joe, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran, and good morning to all your listeners across the county this morning.
Well, it's good to talk to you, Joe. Did you get a great reaction to the video?
Oh, a wonderful reaction to it. There was a lot of views to it, and it's nice for people to contact me and to have engagement with other people in different communities too. I suppose the whole video was kind of targeted around what we're doing in Ellen Park and how we can bring other people with us too, you know, in other communities. But we were a great read of the video, I suppose.
Yeah, and I often wonder when you interact with people, maybe on behalf of the residents of Ellen Park, and because you're so young, do they take you seriously all the time, Joe?
Well, I suppose that's like I to be honest, I have that question too.
Right, your phone line is breaking up on me a bit there, Joe. Are you on a hands-free or something like that? Are you? Okay, Joe's line there has gone sort of a little dodgy for us, so we'll see if we can fix that up, and we'll get back to Joe as soon as we possibly can. You're welcome to text us on any of the subjects we've been chatting about, 083 311 3311. And don't forget, of course, at any time at all you can email us, whether it's about what we're discussing on the programme, or indeed if you want to bring up something brand new, you can email tiptoday@tipfm.com. Now, huge reaction indeed to a lot of what we've been speaking about this morning on the programme, but the most reaction indeed following my chat with Antoinette about her daughter Katie, and just the need that a family has to set themselves up to fundraise just to get what, you know, you'd imagine every child deserves, really, which is to be looked after if they have issues. So it's something we will get back to. Let's see if we have Joe. Joe, welcome back.
Sorry, apologies, friend. Apologies.
No problem, Joe. That sounds much better now. So I was just asking you, I mean, if you're taken seriously when people say how young you are, Joe.
Yeah, as I said, I kind of often ask myself that question too. Like, do people take me seriously? Obviously, I'd like to think that people do take me serious, that I have an opinion that I hope would be valued in the community, and like I just always try and strive towards making a life better in the community. And yeah, as you said, I'm talking to people daily there, and I talk to business people, try and get their perspective. But do they take me seriously? It's kind of it's that's their kind of prerogative. They have to take it. If they want to take what I say on board, well and good. But I hope they take me seriously, because it's a thing that I do like to do, and not just doing it for the laugh. Like,
I know you're focusing on development and just making the area better for the future, Joe. Yeah,
I suppose Ellen Park is around a long time, and there's 360 houses. There's a lot. It's a small town up there, nearly a shop, a chipper, youth club, boxing club, parish hall. There's a lot of stuff up there, school. So, like, I hope just to make the place a better place for people to live, like, because there is a lot of younger families coming into the estate, and it's all about just being proud of where you're from, really, and like development of the area. We have a park above in Ellen Park. We have a soccer pitch in Ellen, and it's about making these facilities better for younger people and to keep people on the straight and narrow as such.
And what about, is there a youth group there, or are you setting one up, Joe?
So in Ellen Park, there's a Clonmel Youth Project is based in Ellen Park. They have a lot of numbers of young people coming to the youth centre on different nights of the week, and then you have the boxing club there. They have training 5 nights a week. You have the school, primary school, St. Oliver's. You have the creche, and you have the 2 parish priests, Father Nicholas and Father Paul. They're doing tremendous work too. So there's a lot. It's a hive of activity up there, really, but it just kind of it goes unnoticed as such, and that's what I'm trying to do through the Residents Committee, I suppose, is to bring everyone together. And sorry, you have the men's shed too. Sean Callahan doing a great job at the men's shed. So it's about bringing everyone together to make one strong community, I suppose.
But are they listening? Are the powers that be, are they listening? Because I was speaking to Sean several times, and what he was looking for was very simple. He just wanted lighting to be looked after in the area, and it was a struggle to get it done.
Yeah, and I suppose the light has been fixed now, and thanks to Deputy McGrath and Geraldine in the office, they were very helpful. I contacted them, so did Sean. But it's something small like that. It's amazing the struggle when you contact Tipperary County Council, and the amount of hassle that you have to go through. Just even talk to someone about it, as you said, something as simple as a light. So, like, I spoke to Eric Ryan numerous times over the summertime about maintenance of the grass and that, and we tried to come halfway, but again, a breakdown in communication. Like, they don't want to know, you know, and these people, they're in that job, and they need to respect what we're doing as a community and help us too.
What about the discussion we've been having over the last couple of weeks, which is that of antisocial behaviour in the town, Joe? What is your experience of that?
My experience, first of all, I think we had a deputy and a councillor come on and said it was a shock that there's antisocial behaviour happening in the town. It's not a shock to me anyway as a young person, because I'm after seeing people taking drugs numerous times in the town, not just that video that's been circulating on social media of people taking drugs. So it's not a shock to me. I was up at a meeting. In the Talbot Hotel. I think it was last week's Launch of Care, the Healthy Community, and they were kind of given the whole background of what drugs are and the impact of drugs. And it was a woman got up from the HSC and she said that there's 360 people availing the addiction services in South Tipperary alone in a week. So the people that are on the streets in Clonmel, they're a small cohort of people that don't want to be proactive and they don't want to get clean. And I think it coming up to Christmas time now, it's supposed to be a time of care and comfort and families that there's supposed to be warmth. And the families to see young people out in the streets that they're in a dark place, and I suppose they need help, but you can only bring someone so far when a bit of independence needs to kick in and they need to help themselves. Like, you can only bring a horse to water, you can't make a drink, that kind of way. So, like, I think that there has to be a breakdown in communication somewhere in relation to the Gardaí, and I think the superintendent is coming on today at some stage. I've seen on the video this morning.
In a few moments' time, yeah.
So there has to be a breakdown somewhere. Like, you have your top brass, you kind of the minister that has the government and the policy approach, and then you have a commissioner who kind of is in charge of file and rank Gardaí. Then you have your superintendent, you have chief superintendent, inspector, such and such. So, like, if you could relay a question to the superintendent for me, if you could, Fran.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is it, Joe?
So I contacted a business person during the week, and I was chatting away to him, and I asked him what's gone wrong in the town that there's not enough guards, and he just asked the question: what would it take for the superintendent to have more resources, and what does he need as being in the position that he is in the superintendent? And why do Gardaí not want to stay in Clonmel? We're after seeing so many transfers, and we have the pictures being painted. We are getting Gardaí in Clonmel, but we're not really, because we have retirements, we have transfers.
Well, I will certainly put those queries to the superintendent. Before I let you go, can I just drag you in on that conversation we had with the Social Democrats as well last week, where they're advocating for the voting age to be lowered to 16. You're 17, Joe. You can't vote, and here you are as a local activist. What do you think?
Yeah, and at the outset there you asked me, do people take me serious? And I think the only way that the young people are ever going to be taken serious in this society is if they have a vote on the issues that are happening. There's great organisations like Curlin and Oak Youth Council that are trying to bring that voice forward for young people. We have great young people like Tara Darmody out in Cashel. So there's a vast amount of young people that have a voice, but they just don't have a vote. And I think the government would be afraid if young people had a vote, because the young people do see what's going on in this country, and they see the road that we're going down, and it'd be only right if young people had a vote. I think that anyone over 16 should have a vote.
All right, Joe, I'll leave it there, but great to talk to you, and congrats on the video from South Tipperary Development Company as well. Thank you for that. We'll take a break. Back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Tipp Today, 1800 938 007. The text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. Now, so for several weeks, reports of antisocial behaviour in Clonmel have been increasing. Last week, a video showing a man being assisted to inject drugs went viral, sparking widespread discussion both online and indeed on air as well. Now, much of the commentary focused on concerns over perceived lack of policing and questions regarding the allocation of guard resources in the area. Now, I'm glad to be joined in the studio by Superintendent Niall O'Connell, and indeed Superintendent Eddie Golden is with me as well. And just for clarity, Niall, your area is South Tipperary, isn't it?
Good morning, Fran. Thanks very much for having me on this morning. So I cover the Tipperary South Community Engagement Functional Area. I'm based here in Clonmel, but I cover, I suppose, the Tipperary South area of, I suppose, Cashel, Care, Clonmel, Carrick and Jura, and the surrounding town areas as well. Very
good. And Eddie, you're Central Tipperary, is that
Yeah,
it?
well, I'm Tipperary Central, covering all the Tees, Thurles, Templemore, Tipperary Town.
Okay.
And obviously the environment around all that.
All right, so that just gives us the geography. Now, if I can start with you first of all, and one of the big observations or critiques, the lack of visible Gardaí on the streets of Clonmel. People are saying that this kind of thing is going on because the Gardaí are not on the beat. How do you answer that now?
Well, Fran, I suppose, yes, certainly, and we have to acknowledge, first of all, that, numbers are challenging. For every functional area in the country, numbers are difficult. But I must say that we are making excellent use of the members that we have at the moment, and they're gainfully employed on a daily basis. I have to acknowledge, I suppose, what your listeners are saying in relation to it. And what I would say about it, Fran, is since my arrival here in Tipperary South, that I met with the business people, I met with the elected representatives, I met with the public, and I heard the messages from them that they wanted to see more guards on the street. And as early as November last year, I put an operation in place to have additional Gardaí on the streets, high visibility, on patrol in Clonmel town in the run-up to Christmas of last year. So I did that, and we ran out that operation in addition to the policing that was already in place. So following on from that, then in January and February of last year, I conducted a review and an assessment of that operation. I had much positive feedback in relation to it. People were very happy to see the guards on the street, and I suppose I was answering the message that I was hearing from the public. So following that review, I implemented that operation from as early as March of this year, having additional patrols on the streets in Clonmel, in Care and in Cashel, increasing that high level visibility of guards, of yellow jackets on the street, in addition to the normal policing model. So again, I'm delighted to say that we're again running out that operation this coming Christmas from next week on. Additional high visibility patrols in around Clonmel, in Care, in Cashel, in the run up to Christmas, to increase that level of perception of safety, to get people back into the town, because that's the important thing, Fran.
Of course it is. And last year, I remember, we got very good feedback about the presence of the Gardaí on the streets, but it appeared that then disappeared to some degree, and that people were no longer seeing people, Gardaí on the streets, on the beat, so to speak.
Yeah, well, again, I'd have to say that I have had additional Gardaí on the street. I've allocated funding to have additional high visibility foot patrols in Clonmel, in Care and Cashel since March of this year. So they have been out on the street. But I do understand that they're not on every street corner. I don't have the capacity to do that, but I allocate my members along policing trends and crime trends. I do a review of crime incidents that occurred in previous. Every day I do a review of those crime incidents, and I allocate then my members depending on the necessity and the need for where the requirement is of those.
And speaking of allocation, you only got one extra Garda from the recent allocation. Is that near enough to what you need?
Well, Fran, every community, I suppose, every functional area could do with additional Gardaí. Absolutely, one makes a difference, and I will allocate that one Garda member to support the members that are already out there doing a fantastic job, a really, really good job, and they're very dedicated members working professionally and ethically within the functional area. So I will take one guard, absolutely. If I get more guards, I will absolutely take them, and I suppose I'm campaigning for additional Gardaí all of the time. I am confident that I will get members, but I just can't say when. But the guards that I do have are being allocated efficiently and well in relation to crime trends and where they're required
People finding it a little unfair because we saw the newspapers today where there a huge number of Gardaí on the streets of Cork, for example, and I mean it looked very powerful and they were addressing everything that we would like to address here, antisocial behaviour and drugs and all. Like a little bit jealous maybe of.
Well, I suppose as a Cork man, Fran, I suppose it's great to see the allocation of Gardaí coming out from Templemore. We had a great Garda recruitment campaign recently. We only had the largest class of trainees enter into Templemore last week, and that's fantastic to see. We've trained 800 Gardaí this year alone, so it's the Garda Commissioner's priority to have a high visibility patrolling out there, and I'm confident that the members will be allocated to Tipperary South in due course, and we will get those allocations. And I suppose I need a small bit of patience, but in the meantime I am putting those additional patrols, I am getting those members out on the beat, the yellow jackets on the street, and I would encourage members of the public that when they do see them on the beat in Clonmel in the coming weeks to go up to them, approach them, speak to them, tell them the issues that they're facing or their concerns, so that we can then properly utilise our members.
I'm sure they will hear then about that viral video about the man being helped to shoot up drugs on the main guard there. That ended up being everywhere, and it was much talked about indeed. How do you address that? I mean, people shocked about it, but young Joe Hawkins telling me there he wasn't shocked because he sees quite a lot of this.
Yeah, what I would say to that, Fran, is that there are people suffering from addiction in this area, and we have to acknowledge that, and some people are in very, very difficult positions. I suppose my job is to stop the supply of drugs, and it will come as a multi-agency approach needed to address the addiction issues and the use of drugs on the street in Clonmel town. What I will say in relation to the enforcement issue of it, Fran, Clonmel town has the highest amount of drug searches in the Clare Tipperary division this year. We have the highest level of simple possession detections in this year, and we're second only to one other area in the level of drugs for sale or supply. We have a very dedicated drug unit here in Clonmel, and they're out there on covert intelligence and operationals. So they are addressing it at the coalface.
Right. So the people who would tell me the dogs in the streets know who the dealers are, the dogs in the streets know where all of this shooting up is going, and it doesn't appear that you're responding to that. You're saying that's not true.
Well, they are responding to it, Fran, but unfortunately we do need evidence to prosecute drug cases, and that takes quite a bit of investigation through covert and overt investigation, and building a case through intelligence means, through information received, through searches being conducted, and then following a trail, and then prosecuting that before the courts. And Fran, our courts are full of prosecutions. Every week we're prosecuting people for drug issues, and that's going to continue. And it's through the collaboration between the crime functional area and the community engagement functional area, as well as the drugs unit, and everybody working together to deal with that issue.
And what Father Michael Toomey said to me, that his parishioners telling him that they're afraid to walk the streets of the town. How do you respond to that?
Well, I have huge respect for Father Toomey, Fran, and again I have to acknowledge what he says and the way he is feeling. And what I will say about that is, I suppose in relation to assaults in this area, we're down on last year. We're down on the incidents of public order. We're down on the incidents of theft in this area. So we are prosecuting these incidents. We are getting the guards on the street. Members are working really, really hard, and the courts are full of prosecutions. And every time that guards are working on the street, that comes with it an element of work that has to go on in the station, and work that goes on inside in the courts, and that does tie up guards in administrative duty, dealing with that and prosecuting the case, because those captures on the street follow up with the paperwork as well in the prosecution, and that takes guards off the street, unfortunately, as well.
Eddie, can I ask you about something else that we've been talking about over the week, well, God knows over the years, but sulkies racing, and we saw a video that again went viral of a recent accident that involved a sulky and a number of motor cars as well. And again, people feel that that's not being policed, that maybe some of these people, a cohort of these people, can get away with anything.
Well, Fran, sulky racing on public roads is dangerous, it's illegal, it's putting everybody at risk. Excuse me, the horses, the drivers, the public, and we do take that extremely seriously. What we found in the last number of, I suppose, years now is because they're like pop-up races now are happening in certain areas, but I would say that we do get information from the public. And this is the key to success here, of identifying hotspots and areas where there might be a trend developing with a prevalence of racing in those areas. And then, but again, the more you talk about it, we have to be covert enough in how we get that information, how we work on it. But look, I think that the solutions for the sulky racing, enforcement and evidence gathering are key from our point of view to try and deal with those members of those any community out there that's breaching all those laws. Targeting patrols and hotspots as well, that's something that, with the information coming in from the public, and again I'm appealing this morning, and like Niall has said, people, my information is that, for example, in relation to some of the high profile ones that Clonmel had here, that we didn't have a complaint actually formally made in relation to those. Now, you might say to me that was because they were intimidated or might feel they couldn't make a complaint, which is really, that hits to the core of myself or Niall when we're trying to do what's best for all the people. If people don't have that confidence, what I'm saying this morning is that we will protect and manage those situations as they arise. And if people want to come to us and confidentially, they can come to us. They can use the guard, the confidential line, or they can speak to any guard, and we will try and manage those. But again, we need statements to come forward to actually prosecute people at times.
So you must have the complaints.
Correct, and I suppose, and again, it's that information that will lead to probably proper enforcement and prosecutions. Also working with the animal welfare and the local authorities. So there is a key element here. It's not just in Garda Síochána. The local authority will have a role to play with bylaws, and I was involved in this a number of years ago as well, and we looked at it. It needs to be looked at again. It needs to be robust to deal with
yes. But have there been prosecutions, Eddie?
We've had limited prosecutions. We've had prosecutions. We've had good success when we've had the AIM PR car, for example, which has got registration numbers. We've done, people have been done in relation to dangerous driving, particularly associated with those events, because you know that where they block all the road and so forth. So we've had certain prosecutions. We would like to have more if there are more instances happening around. And again, we have the seizure of the vehicles as well. If we get there on time, we can seize vehicles. We can and then take prosecutions.
Right, but you must be called and the complaint must happen. And speaking of that, Niall, I mean, one of the other criticisms we keep getting is that people just can't get through to the station. They could be waiting hours for a response from a Garda car. Sometimes they go into the station and just, your members are just so busy that they find it hard to even take a complaint.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that point with me, Fran, actually, because it's one of the messages that I wanted to deliver today is, and to follow on from what Eddie was saying, is that it's really important that the public have the confidence to ring the guards when they require us or when they have information to forward to us. What I would say is that when I acknowledge that sometimes when they ring the Garda station or when they go in, that the Garda is very busy and they may be dealing with a very difficult situation and that they're unable to leave that situation to answer the phone, or they may be delayed in getting to a person who's looking for the Garda response, but they could be dealing with a very, very serious road traffic collision, for instance, or a very serious assault incident that will take them and tie them up for a number of hours. What I would say is that if a person requires a Gardaí urgently, that they would ring 999 or 112. I know people aren't particularly happy a lot of the time with doing that, but what that does is that gets the caller immediately to the regional control room, who dispatch the Garda vehicles in the southern region, and that is the quickest way to get a Garda response if you need them urgently. If you're looking for a guard in the station, if you're looking to speak with, let's say, Niall O'Connell in Clonmel Garda Station, then I would ask them to ring Clonmel Garda Station or call in and speak to the member in charge in Clonmel. But I suppose people just need to be conscious that there's a guard inside, but he may have to deal with a number of different issues, but nobody will be ignored. They will be gotten to, but we have to deal with our calls in order of priority.
Right. Begging, shoplifting, intimidation, for instance, in places like Mary Street Car Park. Can you just deal with those quickly for me now?
So again, as early as last year, I identified Mary Street Car Park as a particular concern for me, and again, people feeling unsafe even going to the pay machine at the Mary Street Car Park, because I am aware that is a particular concern for people. I've already engaged with the council in relation to that, because I wasn't happy with the canopy that's over the pay station. Yes. There. It's a natural cover for people to sit down and away out of the elements, and that they're able to beg. But it is very, very intimidating for people that are going to Mary Street Car Park.
And what powers do you have around that? What can you do then?
There's no actual offence for begging, Fran. I suppose that's the most important thing. There are offences around the act of begging by intimidating people or obstructing their passageway, and people can be directed to move on if they're found begging to be in the area, and that has been happening. And there have been arrests.
It's not illegal
to beg. There's no actual offence for begging.
Okay, running out of time, which is a pity, because there's so much stuff here that we could deal with. But can I ask you, Eddie, about the new policing model? Many people, including our politicians, telling us that this has failed. This notion of Tipperary and Clare linking up with the headquarters in Ennis. Can you take that for me? I mean, as far as you're concerned, has it failed?
Well, there's been a lot of commentary about the model, Fran, and I suppose it's the biggest change to policing that I've witnessed in my service. And I suppose, look, to be clear, what the model has brought is a modernisation of the policing, and this is what the model that was voted on and directed on by the government bring in. And I suppose, look, it originally was brought in so people can spend more time in the communities and tied up less paperwork administration. But like any new system, it does take time to bed in, and there have been challenges. And we'd be the first to acknowledge that. But the core of the model, I suppose, it has given us better access to specialist units, better technology and better information sharing. So, for example, we've, like our Protective Services unit now, we're built up on the back of that model and have taken a lot of those serious investigations away from the frontline members. And we've a number of other really efficient systems within that. I suppose the challenges are still there with Tipperary Clare. And look, the Commissioner's the only one that could really order a review of that.
But we have a Chief Super now based in Ennis, which is quite a ways from us here, Eddie. Is that a disadvantage, do you think?
Look, people have been asking me about that myself as well, and I can understand why people ask that. And when something moves further away, it seems like the local areas have been pushed down the list. I think that's what people are feeling. And look, with so many mixed information about the policing model and its nature, I can understand how people are unsure in practice. But the important thing to say is, while the Chief Superintendent's office is now in Ennis, the operational policing in my area or Niall's area hasn't changed. Like, the public don't get a day-to-day service from headquarters. They get it from the local Gardaí. In all the areas around here, and that's what we have to focus on, and that remains exactly the same. Look, the new model does give us stronger regional supports and specialists, as I mentioned.
Is there, I think, one of the issues, Eddie, is that was never explained to people. You know what the advantage was. We all saw the negatives. Our politicians talk about the negatives all the time, but it was never explained to us as to why.
And again, I think you're right, Fran. That information piece didn't happen effectively. And now I suppose what we have now is, I won't say misinformation, but again, different versions of what people believe is happening at the moment. But I want to be absolutely clear. The move of the Chief Superintendent's base, like, it doesn't reduce the reduction in focus on the towns and the communities that myself and Niall are policing. Like, that's our job, to make sure that we are policing effectively in our areas. My responsibility is to ensure people feel safe and supported, and that hasn't changed one bit. So while I appreciate the concerns, the public should not worry, look, that it's moved further away from decisions or support. We're still here, we're still active, and we still are fully focused on the needs of the community.
Just before we finish, Niall, I know you have a message for people, really, haven't you?
Well, there's a couple of things, Fran. I suppose I want to deliver the positive messages that are within the town. Clonmel town and the surrounding areas, it's a fantastic place to live. It's a fantastic place to work and to do business. I'm introducing a new community policing unit from next week. It's been a priority of mine for a long time, and I'm delighted to say that I'm able to start that off next week. So that will be a really positive impact for the town. So they'll be there. And the new Garda station as well. I've been informed that the works on the new Garda station are going to commence imminently. So again, that's really exciting and really positive for the town.
The community policing, what will that see happen? And how many Gardaí can you allocate?
So at the moment I'll be allocating a sergeant and 2 Gardaí to that community policing unit, and they're dedicated to work positively with the community, to work with the young people and engage then positively with the youngsters, and deliver that positive message on the social and moral attitudes. And so I think we're going to see a lot of benefits from that in years to come. But just in relation to the message here today is we need the public support, and we need the people to contact the Gardaí with information, and if they see something happening, to ring the guards and report it, so that I can allocate my members efficiently and effectively to the areas that require them. You will see more Gardaí on the streets in the coming weeks, and I'm delighted to see that again happening this year, following on from the success of last year. You're going to see them more on foot, on bikes, on vans, and I again encourage members of the public to approach them, speak to them, and let them know their concerns, and if they have any difficulties, that they're there to help. We're identifying, I suppose, areas that need additional attention, somewhat hotspots, and we will be allocating members to that. This is a strong community, Fran, and we're working with it and not apart from it. So again, we are looking for the public support. We will keep this town safe, and we're looking to ensure that people feel safe in it.
All right, well, we appreciate you both coming in, and thank you very much indeed to Superintendent Niall O'Connell and Superintendent Eddie Golden. Thanks very much indeed. That's it from me. Leanne produced, Ali looks after content. Stephen has the time tunnel on the lunchtime show. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Look after yourselves. Bye-bye.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.